taking it to Icebox to boot as well, a map that Qbert has dominated so hard that their last two matchups, this map was hard banned to start out. It was, it's a tough start for sure coming out from Boxer Rockets, but they've had some time to learn things. And as we've seen in previous playoffs, teams that have time between the Swiss stage and playoffs tend to have a little bit of trouble having to shake off some rust.
Yeah, that's the thing, a month off for Qbert. Like, oh yes, they can hide all the strats, but how much of a vacation did we take? How much are we warming up? Like, Ash had a lot of faith that Qbert were on the grind, and Boxer, they got the reps, and they got to show it here and now, and they're showing up already at A, trying to make contact here with, at the back is Nismo. Back all the way behind screens, but no, showing up, already putting shots through the wall, and Boxer's trying to stay nice and quiet, waiting to just jump scare this defense as soon as the Viper wall drops. Now some action, throwing out this Sova bolts, and Qbert just out of sight, out of mind, Sage wall up. This is a fortress to get through, Tenrik.
Yeah, it's tough to break into it at this point. Boxer Rockets have executed really well on top of this, so got to find the right openings quickly, and Qbert are going to pile drive on top of Heaven, which is that opening.
Wow, and I thought Caillou was going to be the one getting a headshot. This is still anyone's game, and on top of the wall, Moose gets removed. And Boxer now have been pushed to the side. Backs against the wall. The spike will get halfway, and Qbert just have to protect the defuse, but Boxer have someone behind them. It's Sacred, the MVP from the last match, but could not get the backstab. The calling is too strong for Qbert, and so is their pistol.
Enough of a battering ram to just make it through, and that's what makes this composition on Icebox so terrifying. The two initiators that stay standing, their ability to just bluster through any wall that's set up on this map. Boxer Rockets are going to have to win many wars of attrition, and the fact is, a lot of their composition is built around setting up shop for that pre-plant and duking it out afterwards. If Qbert are able to continue just drowning that out with noise, the fights are so much easier from there.
Absolutely. Like, I know the desk was worried about how Boxer's comp was going to go towards B, and for now it's going to be back-to-back A hits, and Qbert have been just playing for the retake, but these opening picks are going to matter a lot, and this time it's Redux with the Outlaw at the top, king of the hill, and Boxer now have to assess. Do they want to still try to push into this? They don't have a lurker clearing any other way, so they're going to just try and commit and see if they can make Redux uncomfortable. And they could just be feeding the beast, and now he gets the teleport out and reposition, and Qbert are covering all the bases. Boxer don't get a single kill. That's all 5 weapons into the bonus.
And that was a well-oiled machine, even in just that 3-stack from Qbert. You notice that Nismo went forward the second that any damage was taken as Boxer actually started to get forward. Redux, the one on the outskirts with that Outlaw to be able to TP back to continue repositioning as Box of Rockets went for basically their only option, like you said, which was just committing to try to make Redux at least a little bit uncomfortable. But the coverage entirely there to keep all of these guns going into the bonus. Already a terrific setup here by Qbert on the defense. Exactly the kind of thing that you expected coming into this matchup.
Now Satellite will hold the Outlaw while the rest Guardians. And look, Qbert getting more confident with their B setup, that they're just pushed up just to really make sure that no one is hitting B. Boxer just gonna play this slow, no one on the top tower, and just knowing that this Viper wall can drop at any moment, and they just have to have their guns ready, finger on the trigger. And now with the turret drop, Qbert know there's danger ahead. 3 in screens, ready to maybe re-engage off of Caillou if possible, but Boxer trying to get proactive, and it's Qbert winning the duels, and now getting to round this spike plant. Boxer just don't have any space to work with, just some smokes that keep things quiet until Caillou just goes exploring, and Boxer have the spike dropped and the whole round gone.
Satellite just standing it down from Heaven for the majority of that round on that Outlaw. A couple dinks to seal the deal. But Qbert reducing Box of Rockets to so many static positions as that push went throughout. You saw Boxer knew that Qbert had the read on where this stack was going to be. They knew they had to come with everything when it came to this execution, this contact, this push. And Satellite, the opening stopgap, Qbert able to put a couple extra speed bumps down from there, and they are ready to fight. The stack is prepared. The rhythm completely unkempt. And it seems like Box of Rockets have already run out of ideas to start and momentum to boot.
Just with the composition of Box of Rockets, like they don't have a flash or something to really pressure the defense. Once the walls and all the smokes are in place, they can slow down the tempo. They have the slow orbs for Moose. They're trying to get their shots lined up, and that's kind of going Q*bert's way. But Boxer are facing the only undefeated team here in Challengers, and these are the killers of envy. So Boxer, the desk guard, he said this was going to be an uphill battle, and it's going to turn out to be the case when you don't win that first rifle round.
Yeah, such an influential one. Q*bert already primed to take all of the snowballing here. Nismo yet to die as well. Something fun to know. I think at this point, it's become a kind of unanimous consensus that like Nismo is the guy that deserves a shot at tier 1 the most in North America at the moment. I think that's kind of like everyone kind of agrees on that. And especially here on Icebox with this KO, like he has really bloomed into someone truly different. He was on another level last year already, in particular on this map with this agent on M80, but even here now, like he is continuing to develop as such an unk. It's so impressive. And he's, I mean, he's enabling all of these kids on the rest of this team like hell. It's a monster, this academy team. Really.
Absolutely. And Nismo brings like all this TAC FPS experience, and he's on like a utility heavy role, and his timings have been incredible. They're perfect. I mean, He literally is. He's 5-0. Like there really hasn't been much. I've been worried about Q*bert, how much space they're giving up, how they're literally playing out of the site, and they're just relying on getting picks to get in. But that's really what's been working. The chaos behind leaving Redux smokes, the Knights Viper wall up, and just getting the right timings against Boxer. And they're still trying to figure that out. As our tech pause is all done, we'll actually get to see Boxer and what their approach is to be.
Again, heavy stack to start. They understand how much they have to commit to be able to take this space, and they understand that once they have it, they can set up shop and bunker down for at least a good portion of time. Play the waiting game a little bit more.
Ooh, nice shots from Sacred. Top fragger in that last match. And he's been the X factor for Boxer. These sheriffs are going to hit hard, but through the smoke, it's chaotic. Couldn't be steady against Caillou. The fight for yellow continues, and if Boxer can get close enough, these Stingers can really brawl, but they still haven't dealt with Caillou. He gets away with a second kill. Boxer really not checking off all the boxes before they move on to the next step, but hey, one of the most important steps is done, and that's the spike being planted. 3 left with Redux with an outlaw all by himself, quietly going on the other side of the wall. And wait, a quick flick onto Moose. This is now possible. Redux position revealed though, and McNutty will be on the back corner where Sacred can be aggressive. The shotgun, wait, this is possible. The 1 versus 3. McNutty just has to play time. He has the post plant, he has the cover of the smokes, and Redux just has to go for it, get his attention because time is running out. And McNutty just played this perfectly with the util he had left, and just the patience of how to close out this round. Redux will not pull off the 1v3.
Yeah, really tough attrition that Boxer was able to play there on the B lane after that opening kill came a little bit early. The double initiator stack, especially with Caillou being so heavily barricaded up on yellow, you had to commit a bit of an extra flash. And of course, Nismo's flash was perfect. It allowed Caillou to start fighting, but it also forced the fight to start a tad bit early. And with the toxic screen, Boxer were able to still cut that in half. So you deal with 2 to start, you trade away as you go, pick up a couple rifles, shred the 2 in the back site. By that point, Box of Rockets are the one that have been able to isolate. And now they are on the board. McNutty able to recover that after Redux gets away with the 2 to make it close. So they still have a lot of stability, keeping that operator now for Redux as well. Null command. So I think that they'll continue to play a little bit slower now, especially after Boxer kind of caught them with their pants down here in round 4 already.
Yeah, and it surprised me too. Like, Boxer won that round with 3 sheriffs and 2 stingers on a site that I thought was going to be a big disadvantage for them. But maybe they've just conditioned Q*bert that they're going to be hitting the A site so much. Boxer really got lucky with a weaker site, less defenders. But Q*bert, their style so far has been to play as far back as possible. See Nismo just bringing all the sounds, all the attention towards himself. Boxer gonna throw them the Viper's Pit as soon as they plant. Good information off the knife, but as you expect, the whole team is going to be there. How do you pressure Yellow Box, though? Cubert are just trying to play this from front to back and just pepper down the Viper's Pit. They've still not been able to find Knight. Some damage in there. Boxer just holding back on their base. And Cubert trying to find their way around. And even above the problem, we even have a turret in the middle of the Viper's Pit. This is just the no man's land. Redux has to go in deep and will not be able to dig out these remaining members of Boxer.
See, Cubert doing a great job of punishing any sort of overextension, but Box of Rockets in these past 2 rounds have done a tremendous job of making a map as open as Icebox very sequential when it comes to its clearing. Viper's Pit obviously doing a great job of helping with that this round, and now Box of Rockets can get their own ult cycle going as Cubert Academy has a lot on the table coming into this next round. But with the help of that pit, you were able to kind of set up checkpoints, and Cubert, again, once that extension came over to Snow, they were able to stop it, get that easy double kill to start, but they still had to press back into that pit that the spike was already inside, and you immediately saw the weakness come in from there. Everyone split apart with so many resources to fight uphill against. Just a great setup from Boxer that keeps them more than afloat coming into this second tech pause that it appears that we've encountered.
Esports players and not charging their wireless mice. Name a better duo. I just can't think of a better Viper's Pit. Like, that was really well placed from Sacred. Far back enough where they could plant and also just kind of watch their backs. They knew that Cubert were going to either have to go through it or around it.
Yeah, if anything, it made Yellow a little more tantalizing for Cubert to kind of approach around. You saw Redux get a little antsy, you know, TPing into that cubby instead of kind of skirting around it. Cubert treated that pit and the space around it with a lot more respect than I think they would normally give.
It was a great pit, and Knights has been more of a supportive player, so we'll compare pit to pit on another match, but there's still 4 other ults that we're excited to watch there for Caillou. But Cubert haven't really shown like initiative. They don't really have to because they're on defense. If anything, they're playing almost out of sight all the way in Snowman with maybe Satellite in B-Link areas. So I'm wondering now that you have something like Thrash, who is so good at the retake, is so good at kind of taking initiation in these fights, what timing Caillou is going to find with that ult?
Yeah, very different kind of confidence game in this first quarter of regulation. Wondering how Cubert is going to kind of turn on the heat when they decide to actually get active, because they've still played relatively reclined despite their individual interactions. Quick rotation to make sure they have a good eco stack when Boxer is again made very early noise, and the drone is going to continue blaring the bullhorn.
Yeah, and Knights didn't buy a Guardian. Satellite's the only one with one, so Yellow Box control not going to be as sexy to do with a Sheriff. It's going to be a bit tougher. If anyone's getting that first pick, it's Sacred with the Sheriff. He's been really clean with those, but if anything, Boxer with the 2-round win streak, they're able to get some good weapons, and Knights, well, got information. It did cost a death, though. So it looks like Cubert may even still think about guarding Yellow just to surprise Boxer. You wouldn't expect that kind of play, but off the flash from Caillou, he takes the peek. Boxer respond. Better trades from the offense as they take those around Yellow, and that last defender gone. They'll be able to, I would say, plant safely at B, but I guess McNutty has other ideas just based on where Moose is going.
You see the potential for success in the structure that Cubert tries to set up there, playing preventative once there's only like a minute to go on the clock.
Spike down A.
Unfortunately, Knights dies the moment he peaks, and he's the guy that has the most preventative util, so it's less of a battle against the clock and more of a just let's see what we can find when it becomes that 4v5. And Nismo continuing that trend until he will go down as well, which will turn this to a fully tied up game. That being said, with the stability that Cubert was able to build in these first 3 rounds, it still feels like as close a game as can be. It's just Boxer has kind of fully inched their way back up, and now they look in form with those guns to boot. So the question is, how do they spin the tempo back at this point? Because again, Cubert has continued to play very reclined. It seems like they're still waiting for Boxer to start acting out, because anytime they've overextended, they've gotten pretty easily punished. I'm wondering, when do they really get the drop on Cubert and turn this into a more decisive attack rather than just one that can continue to contest?
Now we can really compare apples to apples and answer that question now that everyone's got good buys going on, and Cubert have still all the ults not investing into that last Sheriff round. now can go to some more fundamental rotations. Again, it's pressuring that yellow box. Now they're investing more of the shock bolts from T-Dog just to force some movement. And Knights is just going to take a different approach. And Chaotic almost at the sidelines with the ult, brings out the ult, loses that to Knights. And Cupid have found huge stabilization, not only off of the two defenders, the 2 kills, but the Thrash drone on the other side to get information. And Boxer going to go elsewhere.
Once again, connection immediately off the read that Cubert have continued to have. Both teams very aware of how telegraphed the attack is, but Box of Rockets just not able to find that opening kill after Chaotic gets that exec, and Satellite's now able to hold the mid opening for 2 easy picks as well. Anytime that Box of Rockets lose an inch, it seems like Cubert is able to fully take the mile, and that's what still makes it seem like there's such a massive gap between these two teams at the moment, despite the scoreboard saying otherwise.
Hunt for the Moose has been concluded. There's so many Canadians on this desk that like we've seen and heard of that before, but every Canadian knows not to mess with any Moose, especially this one. He brings so much experience and knowledge to this team. Cubert are now back in the lead after winning. They got a good buy, they won the round, but can they actually keep this up? Because Boxer are always changing things up. They're becoming more aware of the Caillou flashes. They're trying to have better timings against all the smokes that are coming up from Redux and Knights. And Cubert are also adapting. They're not fighting as much for yellow off of Caillou. They're going to lay farther back and wait for the swing off of the corner from Boxer. So it's a really fun chess match. Is also the match between which batteries are going to stay alive too in the mouses in the bikes, I should say.
Yeah, for some reason, what's popping into my head right now is like the hand slap game. It's like, when is one team going to drop that hammer, and is the other team going to be able to kind of dance around it properly when that hammer actually gets dropped? Because that previous round, Cubert was like you said, just kind of waiting around that corner with a big cartoon mallet and just slammed it right into Boxer Rocket's face the second they turned it. But that does come with some individuality. That does come down to like Knights being able to win that opening 1v1 against Chaotic. That comes down to Nismo being able to get there in time and hit a perfect pop flash, which he does always do that, but just, you know, pretend he doesn't for the sake of the story. But there is a lot of like reliance on the individual prowess of members of Cubert in order to get them far, because it seems like very similar to Box of Rockets, it's a bit of a volatile setup. If one drops, everyone has to kind of start committing, or it's boom or bust.
We thought this was going to be like a big duelist matchup. You know, I thought Chaotic was incredible when I casted him against Blue Otter. He was insane with the op, and that was a fun match. But now going up against, it's actually, I think, the Sentinels that are fragging out really well. Satellite and Sacred are really proving that they know how to anchor in sight. They know how to open up the rounds with first picks. And Sacred had, like, what, the first ult of the whole game with the Viper Spit in round 3 or something
very
like
active,
that. So.
Very, very antsy, like very, very willing to start executing plays. Cubert are still trying to get their feet wet, and it's keeping them from dominating this.
And I mean, Roy has talked about how this is going more into a Sentinel controller meta, and it's so important to have players like that. And Satellite was, what was he, like a duelist that moved to Sentinel? Like, he's been changing roles. He's been incredible. And to be able to swap and be as comfortable as he is at this point shows to just obviously the amount of work that Cubert did throughout that past month.
No, the engine is definitely running, and these guys have been very keen to learn. I think that was the object when it came to trying to build this team, was find people who are so willing to just absorb information and continue to improve. And I mean, each of these guys individually has the perfect kind of story arc to go for that. You know, Satellite being that, you know, wonderkin that we saw previous stage, Nismo being that old head that's been so good at just continuing to learn the game. Caillou, one of the most frag-heavy initiators we've seen in Tier 2 North America in the past 2 years, learning how to be an initiator that can enable while staying that active, and then Redux in turn, learning how to be more of a leading role and more of a full front man that can sort of be an everyman instead of just the tip of the spear. Knights, of course, just a kid on the smokes that can just do it all and has infinite potential. That's Cubert trying to farm out of this. And I mean, coming into this is the 1 seed for the tournament. Coming into this is the 1 seed for potentially all of the region. It's a lot of pressure, but these guys are handling it just as well as they do these games.
Pressure continues as we move on after the tech pause. I guess there was some Discord issues, but okay, Redux already teleporting over. He has the op. He has an important job as a pseudo-duelist this time. But it's cool to see how Qbert approaches the non-duelist on their attacking side. But Redux has been playing it like a budget chamber. He uses like his teleport to get back to safety as he looks in the face of danger. He says, I am the danger. And Qbert, they hide behind smokes. Boxer playing hide and seek, just gonna use the lockdown to flush out the rats, and Redux is still around. It's a critical op shot on the T-Dog and will be able to escape. And as Boxer pushed through kitchen 2 to get sightlines, Qbert are just reading them like a book. They have won every 1v1 against them. Redux with the second pick with the op, and Boxer, when it rains, it pours. No action here at A.
A real confidence game there played for Redux, and he wins it to start out the round. But the rest of that is Box of Rockets searching into an open field that hasn't been cleared out. And Qbert continue to farm off angle after off angle to find the easiest reapproach imaginable, even after that lockdown went through. Box of Rockets just had no way to recover when they had to go to the barricade each and every time, just clamoring to get some sort of way back into advantage. But they could never find it. Once again, it is completely unstable from the jump, and the dominoes start to fall so quickly against a team that knows what they're doing as much as Qbert does. Once again, restructuring on this defense, though, continuing to respect what Box of Rockets can change, and they do. They're going to start letting McNutty get a little frisky on these lurks with the help of Sacred.
Now you get to activate Chaotic more. I almost like forgot there was a duelist. I'm used to seeing like the jet, like dash in, up trap, get all these kills, and his ult earlier in the game got muted quite quickly. We need to see Chaotic get loud the way he has in previous matches. And Boxer, gonna be all over A. Finally get to see this lurk from Sacred, but hey, at least you know the op is on the opposite side of the map. So silver lining for the rest of Boxer, who are gonna try and pull ahead in this 4 versus 5. Planting has not been a problem for this team. It's actually guarding it afterwards. And it's top screens that has been such a kryptonite for Boxer to approach, as it would be with how awkward that angle is.
Exactly, you're still banging on that door, and you've used, again, so much of your stuff to set up and clear. Even though, again, like you said, you know that op is there, they still had to just book it and hope and pray that they could make it work, and they could. Qbert wasn't stacked, but now they're prepped.
Qbert bringing the Viper Wall back up in order to retake, and some of Boxer stayed on the other side in enemy lines to surprise Qbert on the drop down, and the defuse not getting held. What a Hunter's Fury from T-Dog. And kind of delaying that last shot. Redux looks to finish off what his team started. McNutty can't deny it. Oh my God, Redux is fearless.
Just running in on top of his own smoke, and Box of Rockets are still playing the distance game, and so they can't get back in time for the other half of the defuse. And that comes after such a perfect plant from Moose. The fragment from Nismo misses him on the clear, and he's able to get away with such a sick flick for 2. The heaven clear was there. Qbert did not have all the space in the world. And T-Dog had that Hunter's Fury lined up. He finds Knights as well, even after he drops off, but he gets away with half. And Redux has enough time to finish that defuse. A humongous opportunity lost now for Boxer as they hit 6-3.
Redux has been the GOAT the last 2 rounds at that, from staying in an enemy lockdown with an op, getting 2 picks, to securing that last round we just saw. Insane out of the star duelist, who is, well, playing obviously not a duelist, but still impactful as one. Boxer now unobscured from the smokes, hope to take yellow control, and Qbert gonna have Redux inserted with the op. He's about to find the back of Chaotic, who was thinking this op was gonna be further back, and now the shotgun where the sun don't shine. Qbert just making Boxer hemorrhage.
At this point, it's conditioning. They're just flexing. Redux is starting to get more confident on these op swings. Qbert willing to dry contact when Boxer is still just clamoring at these lanes, these openings where they could still be packed up, where Qbert don't necessarily play for information. Rather, they again, they just play for the fight. And they're just making it work because they're better. They can play that confidence game. They can play that classic North American style now that they figured everything out. But we'll have another tech pause. So another moment to breathe for Box of Rockets is they've been quite jostled these past few rounds. Definitely some extra time to restabilize is kind of welcome.
I think Boxer will take any moment to breathe when they've been strangled the last 4 rounds. It's been an absolute masterclass out of Qbert Academy. And I think they're realizing the tempo and the aggression that they can play at when they have 2 sets of flashes. And they have Nismo, like, who has been, I don't even want to call it a one trick. He can play anything, but man, is he cranking on the KO. And then
he
you
is
have
that
Caillou.
guy on KO, yeah.
He really is. And yeah, you have the 2 sets of flashes, so you could be aggressive, you could be up in their face, you can play early and fast, and that's what Qbert are doing. Boxer don't have someone that can kind of counter pressure that can counter util. You have kind of Chaotic, who's still trying to read what the situation is. The yellow box control has kind of been here and there for Boxers. Sometimes they get it for free, sometimes there's Caillou swinging at you with flashes of his own, so it's been hard for Boxer to get a read on how they can have the edge in these battles.
Yeah, it's really tough to say that Box of Rockets can find an edge when a lot of the ones they've found have come off of mistakes from Qbert, either overactivity or just missing a flush or a clear. And I mean, this is the same structural integrity issue that we discussed, that we saw when Maryville 13-0'd Winthrop on this map when they had a mirror composition, and it was that composition that Box of Rockets is running. They just there's just no way forward after you get the spike down. And it's necessary to have that on this map nowadays. There's too much in your face. There's too much of a potential to be able to retake. And Qbert show that in spades, dude. With this double initiator, it's disgusting. Of course, Redux has been taking the spotlight mainly with these first bloods and op shots and just open seasons. This is his element. This is the state of Icebox that he likes to play in, and Qbert have reduced it to that, where Redux can just start looking, and he'll get away with so much.
Yeah, and he kind of took that top frag role from Satellite just now off of purely the Outlaw and the op shots that he's been having. So fantastic job out of Qbert. The desk have highlighted that each one of these players can be in that spotlight. They can be flashy and they can take over a round. In the last couple of rounds, it's been Redux. Before it was Satellite. Then you had Caillou, who was a thorn in Boxer's side when it comes to yellow. Knights has kind of kept the wall up so that Qbert can easily retake A, forcing Boxer to go to B. And Nismo just flashes whenever they want to engage first. Like, there's so many layers and threats to Qbert.
So many ways that Qbert can sort of just meld this to a 9-3. Feels like the one thing that Box of Rockets can do is just fully slow it down. A lot of the time, Spike's going down with like 45 seconds to go. Icebox is, of course, just so beyond committal that you're either kind of just on whatever site you're choosing with 45 seconds to go, or you're just barely getting the spike down in time. And Sentinels have already proven that they are willing to play keep away with their utility if the clock starts becoming an enemy. Knight's going to be that first line of contact more often than not with just the snake bites. They do a world of slowdown on these opening chokes. But that's the best place it feels like Box of Rockets can be, because maybe you encourage Qbert to start making mistakes again, just start over swinging. Maybe you diff Redux and you use that to start twisting the knife a little bit. But a lot of it comes down to punishing the over initiative that Sentinels Academy may have.
Well, we're not going to punish any of you with our voices any longer. The podcast is done. We're going to throw you all to a quick break, and when our teams are ready, we will be too. We'll see you soon. We are so back. That was barely a break. That was more of a breather. And we'll see if Boxer can keep their heads above water with the 2 rounds left in the half. And man, you just can't get any information, Tenric, off this Sova. It's hard for T-Dog to get value.
Yeah, Nice has been playing right at the front door with bar nothing to stop the opening of the lane. Just because, again, they know that it can't be very explosive. You don't have a real true flash. You don't have a real true smoke that can be tossed. And this round, they don't have a real true rifle. Chaotic is on that Hero Guardian.
Okay, able to make some space. And Moose goes on the other side of this protective wall to try and challenge 1v1. Isolates himself, doesn't work out. At least the plant is there, so the time is on Boxer's side, but you have an outlaw in the picture, and we just saw how lethal Redux can be with this, even with the ult too. But I think Qbert are happy zoning off Boxer, using the lockdown, getting the defuse halfway, still waiting to see that. McNutty is gonna sacrifice himself, and Redux just picks up all the kills off of that.
I might as well run into it, but to give Redux a couple more kills off of it, definitely gonna pad his stats a little bit more. I respect Qbert taking the safe route for a round. You gotta be kidding me, dude.
We're so cursed, actually.
We're so cooked, dude. Oh my God.
We have to like sacrifice some
we're
firstborns to feed the talent to Redux, because every time we go to tech break, this guy like kills 3 people. So like...
Yeah, this is purely to reactivate Redux again. He's going to get 4 this round. But like I said, I respect playing the lockdown instead of just going purely for the lane fight where, you know, Box of Rockets could still gain some advantage, playing some funny cubbies. So still paying that respect.
Okay, the firstborns are in the fire. So Redux, okay, my bad. Not just the fire was not stoked. Redux first blood. Boxer, I mean, should have picked up that kill. Look how deep Redux died, too. His Boxer been hitting B a little too much. Resurrect, though, from Moose brings Sacred back after an altercation in mid. And Caillou has a lot to watch out for, and he's really steady with it. Nismo has the left lane, and Boxer with all this map control can't win their gunfights. So that's really unfortunate. Hey, 1v2 though is not impossible, and he's gonna get ahead of the game, and wow, even with the step around, Knight still wins that.
That's purely a brawl, really, at that point. I think Box of Rockets just wanted to see if they could scrap it out through mid, and it was a bit of a longer fight, but Qbert still just have the better shots. It's another avenue that you really can't try to play into against the 1 seeds. Unfortunately, Qbert continuing to look lights out. 9-3 is an understatement going into the swap, to be honest with you. And this attack, I mean, it is one of the most trademarked, most incredible attack executions on Icebox in the region, if not the world right now. It is so consistent. It is so energized. Such a powerful way to just dig an elbow into a stack at basically whatever time Qbert decides. Again, all that could really trip them up is them missing timings and Box of Rockets playing to that clock accordingly. That's really all they can do, but you can't play as preventative. You have, you know, your bite, you have your shock darts, you have ways to sort of slow this down and force Qbert to maybe play committal, but it will be very difficult if Qbert get the first blood or make the right first call against this read.
Silver lining for Boxer, at least the suffering of that first half is now done. Money reset, pistols. And this is maybe the side that Boxer should be better at, but against all the flashes, Sacred just barely dodges util and maybe doesn't want all that smoke, but it felt challenged. But he didn't want to go in blindly, not without the support of his team. Now Boxer take their positions to the front. Maybe see a long recon out of T-Dog, just something to get vision at the back of this yellow box. And here is the recon, immediately gets shot down. Boxer emerge, and off of a shot bolt from T-Dog, it kills 2. Boxer fully take over the real estate, and they have the pistol.
As a perfect way to utilize what Box of Rockets has in their kits, especially to take something as pivotal as the pistol, just dumping it all, and Moose's barrier providing so much help to be able to fully zone it away. But it's T-Dog, of course, taking the spotlight with those shock darts that can do a world of hurt when, for once, such an open space that Icebox tends to boast is fully isolated away. T-Dog did not have nearly as much of a radius to deal with as he normally did, and with the help of a blind and a couple 2 packed-in players, he gets way too much value out of that shock. Boxer have all the space they need from there, all the fight they need, and the pistol.
At least that's been how they're able to utilize T-Dog. Finally, if they can just use the chaos of all these Sova util being thrown to advance and catch Qbert off guard, that could be a big win con for Boxer. We're gonna stack a 1-1-3 setup, and now B has been cracked open like an egg, and that'll call over McNutty from Kitchen and Moose as well to try and retake, because at this point, you can't prevent the inevitable.
Euro outlaw from Redux is ballsy. I wouldn't expect any less. Where do you play from this when you still, again, you can manipulate this. You have the barrier orb available from Moose once again. Slow this down.
Lock off Snowman, so it forces Chaotic to be more forward and just out in the open. He thought the rest of Boxer were emerging from the smoke, but the timing, the synchronization is off from Boxer. And it's a 1 versus 3 for T-Dog, and not enough bullets in the chamber as Qbert get up to double digits.
I don't know how Qbert make enough of a ruckus for Satellite to suddenly go completely unchecked, but he's able to just go fishing from under the tube and comes up with 2 free backstabs as that fight rages on. And of course, with Redux grabbing that first frag onto a vulnerable B site, you were able to hand Knights the Guardian, who got himself one as well. The dominoes started to fall way too early in that round, and all of a sudden, it is Qbert's, as is the momentum once again. Double digits theirs.
Off of just forcing there, and Qbert now just needs to close it out, and T-Dog goes for a big play, comes out with 1, giving now confidence to the rest of Boxer to hold their positions, but Chaotic, he's been silenced yet again. Not having that explosive performance you were hoping him to have in playoffs, at least not yet. And when it just gets worse for Boxer, and Qbert just having the better buys, you expect this round to go their way, but how cleanly was the question? And now every life being sacrificed there for Boxer as Qbert just get ever so closer to taking their map pick.
And as the snowball starts to roll on, you'll see how T-Dog is kind of forced to IGL the team as well. It sort of forced to play into a least common denominator type of scenario where you just go for the lowest risk, highest reward option that's available and visible at all times. And like with the previous half, that can often be quite telegraphed. Qbert able to fully manage, and if you're playing to the least common denominator and your opponent's just better than you, then you're not gonna be able to come up with a whole lot. Great opening frag there from T-Dog as well. Good initiative to take, but unfortunately, there's just nothing you can really do when Qbert can isolate like this. Now, they have the full setup they need to take these last 2. A lot of cushioning available and precipice of game point as long as, once again, they don't mess up their timing.
Yeah, this is a must-win for Boxer where the economy is at, and Sacred just stays behind his own wall, or actually the enemy's wall, but wanted to dodge the Gecko flash. He's gonna have to find a safer spot to push from, relies on the Hunter's Fury. The lane is open. T-Dog hasn't been able to make anyone kneel from the side of Qbert. And now they're on the other side of yellow. They've already planted, and Boxer have open sight lines now that Knights doesn't have the fuel to protect. And now with the Redux smokes up, Boxer gonna have to fight in close quarters. But how they swing in is what matters. And Boxer, this is important. Chaotic already opens with the op, and the rest of Boxer unite at the right time. And it's just Satellite left to protect the spike, and he just won't be able to see this coming. So Boxer will still live on.
Like in the pistol round, swinging the right way with the stack, just using it all at once. And as Qbert has been aptly stacking for the fights as well, you can gain a lot of perpetual value from this utility that would normally not get you as far on this map. Again, what normally would be such an open space that Box of Rockets have to manage when playing preventatively has become very condensed, almost thanks to the way that Qbert has been taking fights. Able to close the gap very quickly, and once the communication is there, if everyone is synergized, then they can drop the hammer even harder than Qbert does on what is normally such a boisterous attack from them.
T-Dog got a lot of information off that recon, but their money is so low. He only has 1 shock, and Boxer gonna have to just rely on teamwork, and Moose gets the help he needs. That's First blood for Boxer. Now they slowly retake the space. How do they take care of this right side? Nismo is above, finds a crack in the wall. He could surprise these members back screen. His wingman won't be planning, no one will, because it's a death match, it's a bloodbath, and Boxer just barely holding on. It's a 2 versus 2, and they op on the drop down. Chaotic is nasty. He hides within the smoke, dashes away, relies on Sacred, and Boxer clutch yet again.
And doing it in such an unconventional way to start when it comes to the retake for A, just playing purely for the heaven control instead of trying to extend on with that utility. On A side, it's tough to do with this composition. And they were able to manage what space they could hold on to absolutely beautifully. Once again, the communication for this team looking fantastic. T-Dog managing these players very well, understanding the kind of leash they need to be kept on. And that's exactly how you take back a site. Qbert relegated to that timeout now, forced to open the playbook back up. They can no longer go window shopping for those easy first bloods the way they could in the first bit of this half. And now it's clear they can get out executed. They can get out contacted. So they need to win a fight somewhere else. They need to find a gap in some other spot. Where is that gonna be?
Yeah, Qbert called his timeout, and I think it's to figure out, well, first, T-Dog getting a lot of information off that recon, kind of foiled things, and then Chaotic still has the op, so where is that gonna be? So, how can you pressure that op, and how can you get closer? Of course, without a jet on the attack, it's definitely a slow scaling affair. Even slower if Moose gets a good slow orb on you. So timeout over. We'll see if Qbert get to match point as they creep up towards B. They know there's only been a solo defender, and Thrash is hungry. Going after Sacred, who's hiding away. 2 away from the Viper's Pit. Gonna be pretty crucial to have him if it even gets to that point. Qbert, nothing off the Thrash. Now just play to plant the spike.
If Qbert want to really take this round like they're going to invest for it, they need to wait for the fight to start for the null command to proc. There it is. Yeah, Nismo, good timing as the spike gets dropped, so Boxer are left to kind of just play the waiting game, and Qbert will see if anyone can stagnate and punish.
If McNutty can just get 1 kill, this lockdown could be huge. As Chaotic now out with the op, support of the team. Flash, no, Chaotic is still within the smoke, and Thrash is out, bites down. Boxer still live on. 3 versus 4 as they approach through yellow. T-Dog has to get this kill, has to set up Chaotic for success, and they do as a team. Man, when Boxer are just at the finish line, they seem to just find a whole new level of firepower.
Excellent chauffeur service around yellow there to make sure that Chaotic was safely able to continue opping. And despite how expectable both sides at this point may be, it seems like Box of Rockets is still able to win out these fights, still able to have more firepower at the end of the day. And here on this map, firepower is still king. Qbert have every trick in the book up their sleeves still. That was a nice Thrash to be able to decisively guarantee the lane, but like every round that they've tried to encounter Box of Rockets on their terms, it's been telegraphed.
Right up to Sacred yet again. Not gonna go for the early pitch, just gets lucky, spam through the smoke, but Redux aggressive in his face, gets the trade before he can escape, and gets that weapon upgrade too, so Qbert will have Wingman plant. Now, how do they approach Boxer? Wait, the Wingman has been put down, so Caillou has to go and fix that real quick while the Pit of Knights will watch over them. Boxer not getting the spam they were hoping for. T-Dog will have shock bolts to clear the front side of the pit while the lockdown takes care of, well, the entirety of the left side of the map, as Qbert will have to watch. Maybe just use their ears to see if anyone's on the spike, and it's a bloodbath yet again. The lockdown is gone. T-Dog throws shock bolts to force movement. The pit is down. Nothing obscures Qbert from their objective and from getting to match point. Now the crossfire in place. Boxer are careful to step out. They get to Redux, and he pulls off the ace.
And he's apparently the one that can do it all. After Box of Rockets finds so many moments to stick their foot back in the door, and that lockdown seemed good But Qbert redirect into that one corner outside of yellow, the one they know they have to control from, and are ready to fight right on top of it. Very aware of how close BORZ can be to the fight after that first blood is committed. But it's Redux that's still doing it all, dancing beyond yellow. He doesn't have to be the only one getting those frags, but he is. Because that's just the kind of guy that he can be. Now up to 22, as he got 5 rounds of game point to play with.
I like where Sacred is sitting, though, within the smoke in the heads of Qbert, but can he actually find one, too? Now the smoke within the smoke, or the flash within the smoke, Sacred somehow gets out, but was hoping to get out of there with at least a kill. Qbert left the spike behind. They were up for some exploring, and T-Dog be able to drone back up to assess the situation. Boxer have lost control of the site.
And once again, gotta play kind of sequentially here, but now with a lockdown from Qbert's side, they'll be able to encourage a fight either now or later. But T-Dog able to find one on the fadeaway. So turning this to a 5v4 that Knights cannot be present for. So it's Qbert that'll have to play a little closer to the fight at this point. Can't play the distance as well with that Viper util gone.
Qbert have many angles watching this back screens. A beautiful paranoia right through Boxer. They'll have to wait this out using the pit, the lab protection, but nothing can protect you against the bullet hail from Qbert. Now a 3 versus 2, not the most ideal weapons, but it's Sacred in a 1v1 to save Boxer in map 1, and he does find a roundabout, but does he have time? It'll be pretty close. And he does so with a second left. Boxer, you just can't kill them.
They had to find some way to get back in through heaven, and the Viper's Pit was the call for it, and it still just barely works. The slowness of it reaching the altitude of that heaven spot on the pedestal made it so Nismo still was able to get away with 2 after. Once again, Box of Rockets overextend just a tad, but that pit is theirs, and that pit is powerful. Sacred able to use it to divert 2 free kills on top of his spike defusal, making that a whole lot easier for the re-execution. Now a res makes this a 6v5, makes this still in reach for Boxer as you got 4 more rounds to clamber back.
You just need one, Qbert. It only takes 1, but the first blows have been going Boxer's way. And Qbert, they just have to rely on Redux, it seems. He's gonna teleport forward. He's so aggressive, and Sacred puts him down like a dog. And it's Boxer ahead in the numbers. And it just gets worse. Caillou did not have enough security to plant. And Qbert will just have to throw away this round. It's Nismo in a 1v5. Wanted to maybe take away some of these weapons because forcing a repurchase could have still been valuable, but Boxer, their resilience is insane.
Yeah, and making this round artificially flawless, you do get to stabilize that economy going forward from here. Even losing a round, a closer round going forward will keep Box of Rockets stable to get this to overtime potentially. But yeah, just a lot of respect for how these guys are able to just get right back up. Turn this to a continuously close game. And catch Qbert continuously over eager. A little anxious to just accomplish the game plan and not as ready for the fights as we've seen before. So this timeout that Qbert's calling feels probably more like one to level their heads a bit. Just a way to let them meditate to get this game finished up and get them out of here.
Yeah, I mean, Qbert have had the same approach towards B of how they bring their Viper wall up, how they're leveraging Redux, and Boxer, their only issue was to kind of come out of those smokes at the right time, but also together, where they've seen some desyncs there, but as soon as Boxer cleaned that up, now we've really had a match on our hands, because this started 9-3. This was kind of decimation in favor of Qbert Academy when this match started. And Boxer are just always punching low and where it hurts at these random times. Like, Boxer are really figuring it out, but is it too late? It's still match point for Qbert, and they have a whole timeout to figure out the perfect strategy to crack open Boxer.
Yeah, like you said, you just got to find one round, and Qbert still have a good couple. And still the fodder after a pretty dominant half up until this point. probably discussing how much of a commitment you do to the buy for this round as well, just because it is kind of pivotal going into the last 2 rounds of regulation, how much you decide to commit to this. But they're gonna commit by the looks of it.
All right, 2 Guardians.
Yeah.
Should be good. Still at long range. Can't underestimate how much those one taps can hurt. Oh, here's a one tap for you, but it's with the big gun, Chaotic. He's so good with the op. I've been waiting for him to be rich enough to get one, and they are rich in kills too. Hubert playing the distance battle against Chaotic is just not gonna work. Caillou gets away with one, but Hubert can't even upgrade off of that. His Boxer are still looming on the horizon. At least the op has been removed, and Hubert now has a possible chance. Caillou is fresh with the Sheriff, and Boxer have not figured out how to put them down for good.
Yeah, it seems like Boxer wanted to finish it right there, but now they've committed the whole stack. And Hubert, in a world where for a moment it really seemed like they had just fully given up, given in, understood that there's no way they can toss more variables into the round. Variables come to them. Caillou, clean as ever, will give Hubert potentially the site here. But Box of Rockets is going to be keen. And in time to meet this, by the looks of it.
Having wingman plan as your only util is gonna get the Thrash online. No plant though, and with the wall up, Hubert, it's do or die. With 10 seconds left, Caillou has to do what wingman started. Hunter's Fury left at the last second for T-Dog to seal the round. The cherry on top. Boxer up to 10. Wait a minute, this could go the distance.
So from here, Hubert will be able to commit to a buy and have a couple ultis to throw into the fray. But that Box of Rockets now has had enough time to fully stabilize, and they've got all the cushioning they need. Chaotic, looking really capable, and it seems like pure contact is not going to be as fruitful. Hubert is going to have to make their clearing a little more piece by piece. That means the big execute at the end is not going to have as much showmanship.
Early round knife to see if Boxer were close. The Thrash and Chaotic floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. Another first blood for Boxer, but Redux is the final boss. And you thought Hubert were beasts. How about a guy who gets an ace on Omen? And Hubert out there smokes in place. Moose is going to try and find an angle above it. Redux didn't expect it. Pressure against Hubert. They still got the spike down. It's 2 versus 2, and this is for the map win. If Hubert can just hold on, you just gotta hide at this point. The drone doesn't get far enough. The slow orbs have been thrown. Moose and T-Dog start to take some space, but time is against them, and Moose has been exposed, and T-Dog has to do it all on his own against his former team to prove something. And Hubert just gonna hide away. Caillou takes a peek. T-Dog wasn't fast enough to the trigger, and it's a crossfire. T-Dog has to look both ways before crossing the road. And now the spike is ticking down. It has to be now, and it's never. 13 to 10 for Hubert on Icebox.
Another case of Box of Rockets coming with some great ideas, some great counter activity, making sure that you guarantee there's only one player that's taking the util dumps at a time and maximizing the value you get in the long run. But Hubert Academy just continue to prove what everyone expected them to coming into this match, that they are purely better, and it'll get them over the 13-10 line of their pick of Icebox.